All right, let's talk about a fascinating piece of geopolitical chess. We're going to look at how this huge, often forgotten inland sea could actually be a secret fortress for Iran.
I want you to picture this. The date is February 28th, 2026, and a pretty serious, high-stakes scenario is playing out.
So, the whole world is glued to the Persian Gulf. In this hypothetical situation, devastating strikes have just hit Iran, and the damage is, well, catastrophic. The Bandar Abbas naval base is basically in ruins. A huge chunk of Iran's navy is at the bottom of the sea, their command structure is a mess, and the supreme leader has been killed. Now, this is pretty much the outcome most people would expect if a conflict kicked off in the south. But here's the thing. What if this very loud, very dramatic fight in the south wasn't the whole story? What if the real key to Iran's survival was hiding somewhere else completely? So let's turn our attention north, to the Caspian Sea. This is what we're talking about. Iran's northern sanctuary, a place that's way beyond the reach of traditional naval power. And this all boils down to a really key military idea: strategic depth. Basically, it's a country's ability to take a massive punch on one front because it has a totally secure second front to fall back on. You can think of it as the ultimate strategic backup plan. Now, this is where it gets really interesting when you compare the two. The Persian Gulf, yeah, it's Iran's economic lifeline, their jugular vein, but it's wide open. It's totally vulnerable to powerful navies and carrier strike groups. The Caspian Sea, though, totally different story. It's landlocked. It's what they call a closed sea, which means it is completely 100% out of reach for U.S. naval power. And get this isn't just about geography. It's actually written into law. The 2018 Actal Convention makes it official. Only the 5 countries that actually border the sea are allowed to have a military presence there. That's it. Just 5. It's an exclusive club. Iran, Russia, Azerbaijan, Kazakhstan, and Turkmenistan. No outsiders allowed. Period. Okay, so the Caspian gives Iran a military safe zone. But what about the economy? I mean, a blockade in the south would be absolutely crippling, right? Well, this is where the Caspian turns into an economic lifeline. And a huge reason for that is this incredible piece of infrastructure called the International North-South Transport Corridor, or INSTC for short. We're talking about a massive 7,200-kilometer network of ships, trains, and roads that connects India all the way to Europe, with Iran and the Caspian sitting right in the middle of it all. And this just perfectly shows why the INST is such a game-changer in a conflict. First, it's mostly on land, which makes it incredibly hard for a naval power to block. And second, you've got other big players involved, like India and Russia, who, let's be honest, aren't always eager to enforce U.S. sanctions. In our 2026 scenario, this corridor is exactly what kept essential goods flowing into Iran when all its southern ports were locked down tight. But it's not just about moving stuff. It's also about energy. Iran has this really clever system they call gas swaps. Okay, check this out. Step 1, a neighbor, like Turkmenistan, pipes gas into Iran's industrial north. Step 2, Iran just uses that gas for its own factories and cities up there. Then step 3, Iran delivers the exact same amount of its own gas from its southern fields to one of its partners' customers somewhere else. It's a brilliant little workaround. This simple swap lets Iran keep its own economy humming along without ever needing to ship gas through those blockaded southern ports. It all depends on that northern connection through the Caspian. So, what's the big picture here? What does all this add up to? Well, it's creating a whole new strategic reality. The Caspian Sea is going from being a sort of geopolitical backwater to a genuine strategic centerpiece for Iran. And listen, this isn't just some theory they're kicking around. Iran is actively making these moves. You can see this flurry of activity. Back in 2025, they're holding joint naval drills with Russia. They hosted the first ever summit for the governors of all 5 Caspian states. They call it provincial diplomacy, and it's all about building tight-knit economic ties and trust with their northern neighbors. So if you really boil it all down, Iran's advantage in the Caspian rests on these 3 pillars. You've got the military sanctuary from its strategic depth. You've got economic resilience from the NISTC and those gas swaps, and you've got a diplomatic shield they're building through all that regional cooperation. And this shift is so real, so important, that Iran's former foreign minister Abbas Araghchi actually said the Caspian Sea now holds the same weight in Iranian strategic planning as the Persian Gulf. I mean, just let that sink in. That is a massive statement. So let's circle all the way back to that scene we set at the beginning. In our 2026 scenario, yeah, the southern front was absolutely crippled. But that northern lifeline, the Caspian connection, it held. It stayed strong. Here's the most important thing to take away from all this. The Caspian is not just a big lake. For Iran, especially, in a time of extreme pressure, it could literally be the difference between survival and total collapse.
And that leaves us with a really big question to think about, right? In a world that's as interconnected as ours, with all these alternative trade routes and regional partnerships popping up, can any nation really be isolated anymore by traditional means?